Grimshire is a farming life sim that does not go easy on you. It's quite challenging and at times even brutal, and if you're not prepared, you can end up learning the consequences of the game the hard way. So in this guide, I'll walk you through the most important tips and tricks and help you build a strong foundation for the rest of your game. Tip number 1. Know how the root cellar works so you can make the most of it. The root cellar is the bread and butter of your game. It can hold 75 stacks of food, and you can both add and remove food from the chest inside of it. You'll start off the game with 10 days of both herbivore and carnivore food in the root cellar, and each day of your food is calculated based off of stamina. So you will need a combined 150 stamina of herbivore and carnivore food to feed your townsfolk. The game calculates this in an interesting way. It begins by totaling the stamina amounts for herbivores and carnivores separately, and if you also have omnivore items in your cellar, it will divide their stamina values equally between the two. There aren't any buffs or reductions to this, so all food items are calculated at their base stamina values as if they're being eaten by an omnivore. The game will also round down to the nearest 100 if you have an uneven number of stamina in your cellar. At the end of the day, the items will be eaten by whichever category needed them, and for omnivore items, they will be eaten whole by one of the two categories. Keep in mind that your villagers will always eat items that are fresh before they eat your dried, smoked, or preserved items, which is really important. But something else that is vital to know is that they don't pay attention to how close items are to spoiling when they do this. So if you have a lot of fresh items in your cellar and some are about to spoil, it's smart to take out the food that is close to spoiling and either sell it to get the gold for it or eat it to restore your stamina and get more done with your days. Otherwise, it's just going to turn to mush and not be very useful to you. It's also good to know that each of your townsfolk will contribute some food to the root cellar over time. Therefore, the more you end up failing your villagers, the less food there will be from them in your cellar. Be aware that if you combine stacks of the same items with different spoiling times, they will even out, so you can extend the time of foods that would spoil soon, or end up making your fresh food spoil faster if you aren't paying attention to this. Tip number 2. Know how the ration works so you can best prepare for it. After the 8th of spring, every Sunday night, you'll need to have the ration ready. The ration will take your dried, smoked, and preserved foods first, so if you have enough food to do so, try to take your items that don't spoil or that have very long spoiling times out of the cellar before the ration is taken. For this matter, it's wise to just keep a chest in your home so you have them on hand in case of emergencies, and you don't have to worry about them being taken by the ration. A good place to get extra food to put in this little stockpile is to buy it from the shops in town like the fishing shack, bakery, and tavern whenever you have some extra money. And when you're buying anything from these shops in town, remember that they do reset every weekend when new goods come in. So be sure to pay attention to their inventories and gold levels when you're deciding whether to buy or sell around restock times. Stores are open until around 10 p.m. each day, and when Finn arrives with his shipments, he has an extra shop at the dock where he sells furniture items, seeds, and other items as well. Always be putting your money to use, buying or upgrading something to move you forward in the game. It is really helpful. But anyway, something else to know about the ration is that it's calculated as both herbivore and carnivore food, and it is higher or lower depending on whatever difficulty setting you chose at the start of the game. If you don't have enough food in either category, the ration will be taken from the other category instead. Your townsfolk are only fed though after the ration is given, so always be sure that you will have enough food in both categories to feed them. Tip number 3. Quests are more important than you think, even the small ones. The first thing you should do in the game is meet everyone in the village. And this isn't just because it's your first quest that you're assigned to do. It's actually because the NPCs that you meet will give you all of the essential tools you need to get started in the game. And you really do need these to start playing. Your axe, pickaxe, scythe, watering can, fishing rod, and so on will all be given to you by the villagers. So don't wait, go introduce yourself around town and you'll be glad you did. A little tip too is that if you want to take care of meeting a lot of the NPCs all at once, head over to the town's tavern in the evening and you'll find a lot of the villagers hanging out there. Then, once you've talked to everyone in the tavern, you can use your map to help you track down any other NPCs that you haven't met yet. But the thing is that the meet and greet quest isn't the only important one. The major town story quests are things that you want to prioritize the most, and even the small quests you get from the townsfolk actually give you very helpful items like extra crafting stations, irrigation systems for your farm, and so on. Tip number 4. Don't ignore Adeline's research donations either. Your first reward for donating a certain number of items to her is a nicer preserving station that you can use for meats even when it's raining, so it's a lot nicer than your drying rack, particularly for rainy days. And the other items that she gives you for donating to her research are quite useful too. When you find a new item you can donate to the museum, you get a little special sound effect, and that item also has a little magnifying glass icon over it to help you keep track of it too. You can see how close you are to getting your next museum donation reward in your quest list menu. Whenever you reach a milestone, the next goal will show up as a quest for you in your menu again, making it easier to keep track. And keep in mind that you don't have to donate specific items to reach the next milestone, you just have to reach a particular number of overall donations. Tip number 5. Plants in this game, whether they're the crops that you grow in your garden, or even some forageables you find throughout the world, have 2 stages of harvest. The first stage is when the crop is ready to harvest, but it hasn't gone to seed yet. If you decide to collect a crop during this time, you'll receive the crop itself, but not any seeds as well from it. The second stage is when the crop is ready to harvest and has also gone to seed. Typically 1 day after the plant would be normally harvestable. If you collect a crop during this time, you'll usually get the crop and seeds as well from it. So it can be worthwhile to wait an extra day to harvest crops during this phase, depending on your farming needs. You can tell what phase crops and forageables are in by holding your mouse over them, but many crops do also look visually different once they've gone to seed, with many of them becoming white colored or having a little seed sprout alongside their main harvestable. Tip number 6. Always make the most of your stamina. Anytime you have leftover stamina, use it to get some extra wood, mine some stone, catch some fish, or pre-prep areas of your farm for more crops to go in. Keep in mind that when you're using your stamina, mining the stone on your farm is more efficient than getting stone out of the first mine, and you can break down the little sticks on the ground to get sticks, medium wood, and hardwood. It's a good idea to break these before you chop down your trees, since trees can drop edible seeds depending on the time of year that can be useful to you. To help conserve your overall stamina too, consider working on getting sprinklers for your farm. Or, if you're earlier in the game, just chat with Percy and ask him what the weather will be like the following day, so you can at least plan around knowing if you'll need to water your crops or not. If you happen to need more stamina, especially just a small bit to finish a task or round out your day, eat what you have the most of or what gives you the lowest stamina. Usually I have an excess of berries from foraging on hand at the end of the day that I personally like to snack on. Since they don't give a ton of stamina and also don't last very long in storage, even when they're dried, usually the village can't actually eat the sheer amount of them that I have in time anyway. So I like to make the most of them. And conserving your stamina leads me to tip number 7, upgrading your tools. Unlike other life sims where upgrading your tools can feel more leisurely or optional, and is mainly centered around making your life easier in the game, in Grimshire, upgrading your tools does feel pretty essential. Since stamina is such a vital resource, upgrades that can conserve that are fantastic. And the tool upgrades that can unlock new resources, like the pickaxe and axe particularly, feel especially important. But just be sure when you do go to upgrade your tools that you won't need to use them for the next 2 days, because they do take a little while to actually get upgraded. Tip number 8. When you do eventually run completely out of stamina, you should still try to make the most of your day, since every day really counts in Grimshire. Some things you can still do when you are totally out of stamina are craft, cook, forage and shake trees, pick crops and clear weeds, plant seeds and fertilize your crops, socialize with and give gifts to villagers, and donate to the museum, food bank, or town projects. Tip number 9. There are 3 mines in this game, and they're by far the best way to get extra money, so you should definitely consider making the most of them sooner rather than later. The first mine is in the top left-hand corner of the map, close to the blacksmith's house. Levels 1 to 10 of this mine have stone, coal, copper, tin, and quartz, while the higher levels from 11 to 12 have salt, coal, tin, iron, silver, quartz, and ruby. In order to get into the other 2 mines, you'll need to upgrade your pickaxe and break down the openings you find around the map. And this is also very much worth doing because both of these other mines also have very helpful resources inside. The mine you'll find in the Marsh contains clay, coal, iron, nickel, and sapphire in its lower levels, with the addition of sandstone, titanium, gold, and amethyst in its higher ones. And the mine you'll discover in the mountains has marble, coal, mithril, gold, amethyst, as well as all of the ores, diamond, obsidian, ice blocks, and ice crystals at its higher levels. There are also helpful chests in the mines that you can loot and then break down for free planks, as well as wild forageables like bones, ores, guano, and gems, and seeds, bars, bottled surprises, and sorrel that you can hoe out of the ground. The things you'll want to sell from the mines are mainly the gems. Still, it's good to keep a few of each of them on hand, but otherwise you should be good to make a lot of money off of your mining excursions. Tip number 10. When you're chopping down trees, be sure to always replant them as soon as you can. Smoked seeds and nuts actually don't spoil, so they're very useful to keep growing and save up. And before you start chopping anything down, especially be sure you don't cut down a fruit tree until after it's finished growing fruit and it's harvesting season. You can cut them down afterwards though, because trees do regrow later if they're outside of your home area, and you can sometimes get seeds from them to propagate the trees as well. Keep in mind while you're walking around, you can also shake trees for a small chance to get a branch, bottled surprise, or a tree seed to drop from them too. This is quite useful for getting fruit tree seeds if you're lucky. Tip number 11. Start your farm early, and since not all crops are equal in this game, think wisely about what you plant when you do. You'll want to consider 3 main things with your crops: how long it takes them to grow, how stamina dense they are, and if you plan to use them for any specific cooking recipes. One thing I will add though is that if you're going for bumper crops and using fertilizer, you will want to prioritize your crops that will give you the most stamina to use the compost on, so you can be sure you're getting the biggest benefit there. In terms of crops in general too, hay is typically quite good because it doesn't need to be watered, and you can use it to make kibble for your critters and fishing traps and to help with the ration. Just be sure if you do choose to grow hay that you're keeping it in a different part of your farm from where your regular crops are. Also, always remember to harvest the hay with your scythe so you end up getting the biggest yield. Tip number 12. Cooking is helpful, but you will want to be strategic about it so you get the most benefit out of cooking in general. Pay particular attention to the stamina value of the ingredients that you're putting into your recipes and what you're getting out for making them, and always try to prioritize putting in ingredients with the smallest stamina values, since the recipes will always output the same value no matter what ingredients were used to make them. For instance, if you have a chanterelle, which can give you 7 stamina when eaten, and a morel, which can give you 9, you should prioritize using the chanterelle in your recipe. That way you're always making the most out of your ingredients. Tip number 13. Know how compost works in the game. You can add 30 organic items to your compost pile, and when you add them, you'll see a number at the top that says quality. But this is actually a bit confusing because what this number is really showing you is actually the quantity of compost that you're going to get from what you've added in. So putting in different items of higher quality will actually give you more compost when your pile is done processing. How the game views quality for these items is pretty simple. If you're putting in food, you'll get more compost for however high the stamina value of the food you put in is. And if you're putting in items that can burn, you'll get more based on how long the item's fuel burning time is. So as an example, if you fill up your pile with plant debris, you'll only get 9 total compost after you've waited for the processing to finish. But if you put in sticks, which have a longer burn time, you'll get 15 compost once it's finished. Likewise, berries will get you 30 compost, but dried mushrooms will get you 60, and dried meat will get you 300 since it has a much higher stamina value. Keep in mind that items are identified in your compost pile just long enough for the pile to figure out the quantity calculation that you're going to get, so it is actually possible to add a variety of different items into the same compost bin. Tip number 14. Don't be afraid to craft more than one of the different processing stations in the game. Really, you're going to want to make multiple things like drying racks and cooking stations, just so you can keep up with the food demands in this game. So trying to get by with just one of each, or only what the game gives you from quest rewards, is going to make things feel really difficult for you. So go ahead and build as many of each crafting station as you feel you need. A good rule of thumb is if you start to feel like you can't keep up with some of the resources you're getting with the stations you have, plan to make at least one more of that station. And finally, tip number 15. A lot of players find carnivore food to be some of the hardest food to get in the game, and that's because there's really only 3 ways for you to get it. You can catch fish, butcher your farm animals, or receive it in the world, whether that's from villagers or from your explorations throughout the mines. But that's really it, so it can feel like your options are a bit more limited and like you have to plan your strategy for carnivore food a little bit more carefully. So what can you do? Well, you can get by for a short time with the default carnivore food that's in your town stockpile, but then you're going to want to supplement that with either fishing, gathering from the mines, or if you need to, buying some food from the shops in the village. However, this might not be entirely sustainable throughout the whole game, so you're going to want to think of additional options. You can craft fish traps to help with your fish catching needs, but I would really recommend getting a barn for any sort of farm animal as soon as you're able to. You don't have to do butchering if you don't want to, but if that's the case, I do recommend you choose a farm animal to start with that produces an animal product that carnivores can eat, like milk or eggs. Alfeeps are a nice choice for this, as are bluggies. Once you get at least one barn for farm animals, you'll likely find that feeding your carnivores is quite a bit easier. Alright, that should be plenty of information to get you started off with an advantage in Grimshire. This can definitely be a difficult game to adjust to, but I hope this information helps make getting settled in a little bit easier. If this video was helpful to you, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like using the button below, and if you want to watch more of my Grimshire guides, I'll have some up on my channel soon if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching, and best of luck taking care of your townsfolk.